Welcome to Culture Unplugged, where the silence ends. I'm your host, Uncle Chris, and on this channel, we uncover the real stories of hazing that the schools and organizations would rather bury forever. If you stand with us in the fight against hazing, subscribe and like this video and join a community that refuses to stay quiet, because here we give survivors and families the voice that they were denied, and we shine a light on the harm hazing has brought to far too many families, including my own. So don't go anywhere. This is where the silence ends. Now, this episode contains discussion of hazing and student death. Viewer discretion is advised. We are talking about the VCU case. It's definitely came across my timeline, and I wanted to address it. VCU is a little bit personal for me because I've spent a lot of time in Richmond, quite a few times just either hanging out in that city or passing, passing the school, VCU, and just this is one of those stories that I covered recently. Also, a few months back, I talked about the story of Adam Oakes. So I wanted to address this particular story, but also let you know that this Sunday, October the 12th at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will be sitting down with the father of the late Adam Oakes, and his name is Eric Oakes. He's going to be sharing his story, his experience, his grief and pain with us in reflection, and I want to hear what he has to say and his thoughts about another fraternity involved in hazing that was supposed to be suspended and is suspended, but is unofficially working underground and has been causing quite a stir. So let's just get started. So starting with what's happening right now, multiple hazing allegations have surfaced against the Theta Chi fraternity at Virginia Commonwealth University. Again, so according to WRIC 8 News, VCU officials placed the fraternity on interim suspension following reports of forced activity, intimidation, possible physical abuse during an alleged pledging process. Now, this doesn't surprise me, just as far as just how these organizations work in terms of, we're seeing the thick of the school season. Young people who are interested in joining organizations, and then you have organizations that who are being a part or of a hazing process or even ramping up that process. So the university confirmed that investigations are underway and that the national organization of Theta Chi has been contacted. But for those who followed VCU's history, this headline may feel like deja vu. So here's why. If you don't remember this story, let me remind you. In 2021, an 18-year-old freshman named Adam Oakes died after a hazing ritual with Delta Chi fraternity, also at Virginia Commonwealth University. Adam was driven around the city of Richmond with two other underground pledges to disorient them with their heads down and not allowed to look up, while the driver and the president of that chapter yelled at them, and then had them take on excessive amounts of alcohol, which led to them leaving Adam alone, really to die. No type of care, of checkup, make sure he's okay. Like this was just fun and games. They took advantage of a young man who basically was impressionable and vulnerable and really exploit that. And it led to his death. So this is supposed to be with his so-called brothers, the brothers that are supposed to be looking out for his safety. And here we are seeing something like this come out again is not only very disturbing to the community of VCU, but especially Adam Oakes' family, to see that they're still having to see mess like this at VCU. It's highly disrespectful, especially now that there's an Adams law, which we're going to talk about soon. So his so-called brothers, they panicked and they cleaned up the evidence. That's the cover-up, right? This is the continuous thing that we've seen time and time again with organizations, is that something happens, it gets put out, where they find out and realize, okay, now they gotten caught, something bad happens. Now it's, how do we save face? How do we cover this up? Which is not only malicious, is insidious in nature in terms of, not even being the true man that you're trying to claim to be. instead of just taking whatever punishment or accepting fault. The immediate thing to do is, how do we hide away from this personally affecting me? How can I, not accept accountability? And that's a serious problem when it comes down to all hazing cases, but in this one especially. His family, led by his father, Eric Oakes, he has spent every day since fighting to make sure that no other student endures that same fate. And I've been speaking with Eric, and he is really passionate, of course, as any parent as taking on the mantle of anti-hazing. Is extremely passionate. We are grateful to have his collaboration with us to help really spread the word of anti-hazing. But we want to make sure that we do this strategically. And I've posed some ideas and thoughts about how maybe this might end up really happening to protect young people on campuses. Is not only, his position is in mine as well. Every video, every chance that we get to speak in front of students, that's a certain percentage of students that may or may not decide to go to that college or university or that organization and pledge at all, which means money. At the end of the day, that's what it's about. So if we can hit it in the wallet, if we can hit it in the pockets, then we can at least invoke change and force them to look at this and take it seriously. Because if we don't speak up, if we don't make sure that we put these names, these cases, right, in the media, then they'll just forget it, and it'll be another case all over again. And so that's what we're trying to prevent here. So Adam's death led to sweeping changes. VCU expelled Delta Chi, and they created a new hazing prevention program and policies, and promised transparency. And there's been ongoing training. They just had a training as well to talk about Adam's Law and how serious cases like this can be, again, and we're still having to fight through, that process of trying to educate folks on why these are dangerous acts, right? So, but now here we are again, another fraternity, another investigation, another family somewhere holding their breath and hoping for the best, that nothing bad has happened. And sometimes we're surprised. I could tell you, even myself, there are families who are legacy in organizations, and they are full support of it. Full support of it. And the attitudes that I hear and see is, it's just a part of the process. It's just the nature of, what it is. Hazing isn't that bad. And a whole bunch of stigmas and myths that people don't really understand how serious these things can get. And people can think that, one day everything's okay and everything's fine. The risk is not worth the reward, people. So we're seeing here is a pattern. The pattern is clear. Universities make these promises when tragedy strikes, but accountability fades with the news cycle. Okay, continuous amount of time, doesn't matter. The news will stay current about what's happening for a few days, maybe a couple of weeks, and then it just dies down. Nobody says anything anymore. But this is where Culture Unplugged is important, because we're having a chance to continuously have this conversation until someone gets it, until someone, somewhere says, what, I saw this play out on Culture Unplugged. We got to do something. We've got to make sure we don't see another young life lost. Okay. So this is about spreading the awareness and protecting and saving lives. So this isn't just about one frat. It's about a culture that prioritizes loyalty over life. Theta Chi's alleged behavior echoes what we've seen nationwide. Young men coerced to prove their worth through pain. The same excuses come up, of course, like we talked about, the tradition, the brotherhood. It's just a part of that identity that people are so locked into. But hazing isn't bonding, it's violence wrapped in ritual. It's not even just surface level, as it also is internal. And that psychological damage element is also there. It's not often talked about. It's happening in organizations that claim to build leaders. Even more alarming here, according to data from StopHazing.org, over 50% of students in fraternities, sororities, and clubs report experiencing some form of hazing. Yet, most never report it. And you might be asking why. Well, why? Because the cost of speaking up often means social exile, bullying, or worse. It's like complete reputation, destruction, who you are on campus. You got to think about it. When you're going to college, you're going to university, you are in a world inclusive of that college. Okay, your whole job, of course, is to do your go to school. If you're a student, you're watching this, to go to class, make your classes, make your grades, make your friends, have the college experience. But once something or the word is out there that you are this snitch, or you're this person that is causing a problem, then it becomes an issue. You are brave. Let me just say that right now. There's nothing wrong with speaking up. You should speak up. There should be processes where you can do that anonymously, but at the same time, do not let yourself get discouraged to not speak up, because you could be saving someone's life and future. So after Adam Oakes' death, VCU pledged reform. They added anti-hazing training and new student policies. But here's the hard truth. Policies mean nothing, and they mean nothing without culture change. If an organization like Theta Chi can be under investigation for hazing only a few years after Adam's death, something is broken in the system of oversight. So VCU isn't alone. Across the country, universities are failing to enforce their own zero tolerance rules until the damage is already done. We've seen similar cases with Southern University, recently Fort Valley State University, Georgia College. There's so many different schools. I get alerts about hazing every single day, it seems like. Every week there's a new case, a new suspension, especially as we're ramping up in the school season. So what does it say about the accountability when schools react after the news breaks, not before the harm happens? When schools treat hazing as a public relations issue instead of a public safety crisis, students end up dying, families get destroyed. Okay, the grief sets in, the pain, the questions of what could have been done, what could we do? This is why we have to have these tough conversations. And I see it as an ongoing conversation where we'll always have to come to have these discussions and invite parents to share their pain, who have also been really affected by it, because they know the weight of it and the gravity of it, and share with parents who don't have a clue, or who underestimate it and don't see that there's a bigger problem at play. We have to get serious. This is no excuse that VCU is running through this case. Again, I spent a lot of time, again, like I said, I mentioned in Richmond, I spent time just hanging out with Shackley Bottom, spending time on West Broad. There's a few places I like to eat there. It's just a great community. It's really a chill community. There's an art to it. They have the Richmond Jazz Festival. If you've never gone to the Richmond Jazz Festival, I highly encourage it. VCU is a great school. It's a school I was going to go to, and I ended up graduating at Old Dominion University. Shout out to the Monarchs. But I seen it, as its own culture. It's a unique city. And when I see pictures of Adam Oakes, I remember talking about him in one of the first videos, just mentioning a PWI, mentioning how he went through what he went through. He just looked like a great, light, kind-hearted kid that was just taken advantage of. And we've got to protect these young people. His father really, his parents, his family just really were railroaded with grief and pain. And shout out to Love Like Adam movement as well, to the family, and just what they've been able to do is incredible. And our hearts, our love goes out to you guys. This isn't isolated to these fraternities. Black Greek letter organizations, they face their own reckoning as well. We've seen cases across with Alpha Kappa Alpha Incorporated, Sorority Incorporated, Alpha Phi Alpha, Omega Psi Phi, Kappa Alpha Psi, proving what we've seen across, different types of organizations. We're not discriminating. Hazing doesn't discriminate across race or letters. The same code of silence protects abusers and punishes the truth tellers, okay? I wouldn't do this work if it wasn't for people who continuously try to tell me I'm doing something wrong, that I know I'm doing something right. When a student dies at VCU or Southern University, the question isn't which organization, it's why are we still burying our young people for a sense of belonging? That's another question, rhetorical. You can answer for me in the comment section. But out of Adam Oak's tragedy became Adam's law. It became that legislation in Virginia that requires hazing prevention education for all college students involved in campus organizations. It's one of the most comprehensive state level responses to hazing in the country. There are other states that have really groundbreaking anti-hazing laws. Max Groover, which we've talked about as well in Louisiana, and Tim Piazza's law in Pennsylvania. So the cases are growing. And even what you'll see tomorrow dropping the Matthew Carrington story, Matt's law in California. But laws can't fix silence until the students, the parents, and alumni reject the belief and the culture that pain equals loyalty. These cycles will continue if we don't get it fixed, if we don't come together as a coalition to say enough is enough. Okay, so let's be clear. What's happening at VCU right now is more than a university story. It's a warning. Adam's father, Eric Oakes, said it best. I don't want another family to have to go through this. Adam's story can't be for nothing. If hazing continues to be minimized as a mistake, more families will lose their children. I can tell you that. I can promise you that, or will be destroyed. Like the Danny Santulli case, where he's literally cannot, talk or live without assistance, forever in a wheelchair, forever has to be taken care of. We can't continue to have these type of conversations and result of the after effect and be reactionary. We have to be preventative when it comes to these cases. So to every student watching, you don't need to prove your loyalty through pain. You can walk away. If you notice or you see something, say something, speak up. And to every parent, ask your child what's really happening behind these closed doors. I know for a fact you do not want to get that phone call that your son or your daughter has been harmed. You just do not want that pain. So what can you do? Okay, as a parent, as a parent of a son or a daughter who is going to a college or university or higher education, where you, a lot of times, are not just relying, I'm talking about the parents that are also paying for their students to go to that college, because you just can't rely that the school is going to do their part on 100% to protect your child. How are you also going to best take up the mantle and protect your child to make sure that they are being, that they're safe from harm, whatever organization they desire to join, that they're going to be protected? What are you doing also to ensure that? And how are your son or your daughter reacting when it comes down to this type of mindset and this culture? We know that silence protects the system, not the students. Okay, so ask your child, ask your son or your daughter what's being done, how are they taking care of themselves, what's happening on campus. The conversations can be really that simple. If you believe in protecting students and honoring those that we've lost, I need you to join this movement. Share this video, leave a comment in the comments section with one thing, with hashtag justice for Adam. And visit stophazing.org and hazinginfo.org to learn more. If you remember, Culture Unplugged is working in collaboration as well with those organizations, as well as with the Love Like Adam. We're going to be, again, hosting Eric Oakes on the show this Sunday. I hope to see you there. We're going to be live. And we hope to really kind of better understand what his side of the story, how he feels about the current case with Theta Chi, and you'll want to be a part of it. I don't want to give too much away. So I hope that this video proved valuable to you. Share this video, leave comments, let me know what you think. What's your thought of this, another story coming out with different organization at VCU? What's your thoughts on is happening? Any thoughts on what can be done to prevent this case? Because apparently this was a unofficial group that went underground. They were suspended and yet still involved in some illegal activity of a pledging process. So I'd like to know your thoughts. Please join us every week. And again, thank you. This is where the silence ends.